Hi, welcome to the Heart of Things. I'm Alyssa Sullivan, and this episode, I've decided to call it Who Do You Think You Are? And I'm experiencing that voice of Who Do You Think You Are right now. This is my second recording of this episode, and I just got some great edits from my pal, and I'm kind of just trying to drop into the truth of what it is that I want to share with you guys. And what I want to share with you guys is a truth that I've been living with for most of my adult life. It's that critical driving voice in my head. And, it's been in the driver's seat in different chapters. When I was younger, I was a dancer. I wanted to dance on Broadway. And that critic was brutal. In those days, you're in mirrors all the time, trying to perfect the choreography. It's a really intense culture. And without having any coaching about how to have a strong self-esteem, you can get really pummeled. So that was the first time that it felt debilitating to me. I ended up, of course, not dancing on Broadway. And in my early 20s, oh boy, remember your early 20s? Maybe some of you are in your early 20s. I have two daughters who are in their early 20s. Trying to figure out who you are in the world and how you want to live in the world. Anyway, I ended up following a guy that I fell in love with to Northern California. And I didn't really fully understand that the critical voice in my head was a part of me, not actually me, until I was almost 30 years old. I was living in Marin County, and I stumbled upon a book called Embracing Your Inner Critic. And just the title of it, I was like, wait a second. They know I have an inner critic in my head? I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but that's how I felt at the time. And so I just, burned through the book and felt so comforted, feeling like, wow, these people really understand my mind. And if they wrote a book about it, then it's not just my mind. And that sort of shared humanity, it gave me great comfort. It actually still gives me great comfort. It's in fact the reason that I'm doing this podcast. I'm a yoga teacher. I've been teaching for over 26 years. I've owned my own studio. I've taught classes in all kinds of places. I don't know, hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people that I have been in touch with and have led through practices. And I'll tell you, our community, our shared humanity is what really touches me in the deepest way. And the stories that I tell, they're never planned. I don't rehearse them. I don't think about them. They just come. And they're always about life stuff, all the human stuff. And I've had so much evidence over the years that my storytelling, my ability to be honest and authentic and transparent about my own humanity really touches other people. I mean, people will nod their heads, they'll cry or laugh, or they'll say something to me after class. And it occurred to me that maybe it would be a good idea to step out of the yoga room in the context of a yoga class, which is where the stories, and then after class, the conversations happen, and bring it to a different platform. And so here we are. I feel that it's a pervasive quality in humanity. I don't know if it's an American quality or if it's just present so strongly now, but I think that the fraud syndrome, you hear people talk about imposter syndrome, perfectionism. I hear it from so many different people. When I discovered Anne Lamont's writing, besides cracking me up, she calls the critical voice in her head K-fucked radio. She even married a guy, Neil Allen, who wrote a book about the critic. And what I love about what Neil has to say is he's like, suggests that we question what the critic has to say, because some of it's really just ridiculous. But we buy in, I know I've had full buy-in, especially in moments when I've been really vulnerable, or what Sulike Jouad calls life interruptions. I love that. She wrote a column for the New York Times called Life Interrupted. And, her interruption was a diagnosis of leukemia. Through the studio, I've had so many stories of people having life interruptions that are unbelievable. Loss of a job, loss of a love, loss of identity. And in those moments that we all find ourselves with interruption, fear comes up and our sense of safety gets rattled. And for me, that's a ripe moment for the critic to want to jump in. And what was cool about this book that I discovered, Embracing the Inner Critic, Hal and Sidra are therapists, of course, right? So they have many books, not just Embracing Your Inner Critic. And they developed a therapeutic technique called voice dialogue. And they were holding a training for therapists and social workers in Mendocino, right after I read the book. And in those days, I couldn't call them on my cell phone or even email them. I wrote them a letter and petitioned to them. I let them know the impact of their book in my life. And I asked them if I could attend the training, even though I wasn't a therapist or a social worker or anything like that. And it's remarkable to me, something about what I wrote in my story and in my letter, they wrote me back and they said yes. And I was so honored and so moved to be included with all these professionals in this training. And the way it worked was it was practice sessions. Somebody would be the therapist, somebody would be the client, and the rest of us would observe. And watching human behavior when a person is communicating from a certain self or part of them, there's a body language. There's a certain look in the eyes, a tone of voice. And so what would happen is the facilitator would ask another question and another part of that person would take over and everything would change. You could see it. So the facilitator would ask the person to move their chair. So then what would happen, and as I, did all these practice sessions, I found a best friend, Bernie. This guy was from Ann Arbor, Michigan. He could have been my grandfather. He looked like Santa Claus. He had the most twinkly eyes, a big belly, incredible sense of humor, and he was completely raw and authentic with me. He let me work with him. And it was such a deep respect that I felt from him that it helped me to trust my instincts, to be able to take in this information and really learn. I'll never forget him and never forget that experience. It stayed with me my whole life. And this observation of the critic about perfectionism and that same energy that I notice in the world and talk to so many people about has been something that has fascinated me. I'll tell you, it's a great honor as a yoga teacher to take a room full of people that you can feel attached to some level of their own critic, their version of it, or their stories. You can feel the rigidity in their bodies, and to softly feel them let go and breathe and move and shed some of that. The intention in the yoga practice is to bring us to our hearts and souls, away from our minds and emotions. And it's the honor of my lifetime to be able to do that and experience that with other people. I found that through the years that compassion is really the way to work with this part of me. Much as I would like my critic to retire, she doesn't seem to want to. So I've decided to lean in, to try to really understand what her role is. And I'm actually real time trying to figure it out. I think she feels, even though it seems odd or a little crazy, to be a protector. And I'll have to get back to you about that because I'm just starting to really understand that. But I think who she's protecting is one of my selves, and it's the small child. I know my family of origin story. I'm the youngest of 5. I have siblings who are older and can also help me remember. But I don't know that I've ever fully dived into the depth of what happened to me when I was a little girl. And what happened to me when I was a little girl was that my parents divorced when I was around 9. My father had a very unhealthy attachment to me that separated me from my siblings and from my mom. So when he left, I was really afraid. He was like a lifeline to me. And my, siblings didn't want to have much to do with me. They were teenagers, and my mom was just spent. She had nothing, no nurturance, I would stand outside of her door, afraid of a thunderstorm or afraid of the boogeyman or afraid she was going to leave. And she would never invite me in. Not to cuddle, not to sing to me or read to me. Not ever. So my refuge were my stuffed animals. And a couple of months ago, I had this thought, because one of my stuffed animals was a lion. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to get myself a lion so I can have it in my home. And when I feel deep emotion, when I feel, the extra amount of fear or the critic tries to jump in with my current situation, I can remember and recognize that that's the small child. And she just needs to know she's safe and she needs to be held. So I go to my local bookstore and I try to get a stuffed lion. No lion. I go to this toy store in Providence. No lion. So I go online to get a lion. Clearly, I wasn't paying attention because 2 days later, I get this giant box in my back door. And I open the box. There is a life-size lion. It looks like a taxidermy, like stuffed freaky lion. Like the eyes are weird. I take it out. I put it on my couch. I walk out of the room. I walk in the room. I swear to God, the eyes are moving. I'm like, oh my God. I said to myself, I got this lion to comfort me. It's scaring the hell out of me. Like, am I supposed to keep it? Should I spoon it? Like, what the hell do I do? Finally, I decide, no way, I can't keep it. I put it back in the box. And I call my daughter, Molly, and I tell her the story, and we're laughing. And then something beautiful happened. She said, Mom, I know your backstory. I would actually really love to buy your small child a stuffed lion. Can I do that for you? I immediately cried. I thought, isn't this amazing? What I know is that my mother, who couldn't offer me any nurturance, never received any nurturance from her mother. And here my 26-year-old daughter, in her compassion and her awareness, wants to offer my small child a stuffed lion. This was pure grace to me. I feel like life is about moments. And man, that was a moment. The thing that's occurred to me, and I think you guys could probably agree, that when you learn something, you have an awareness, you think you're done. Like, I went to summer camp, man, with professionals. I learned voice dialogue. I know about the critic. And yet, she's still a part of me. And I'm still learning about how to include her, work with her, understand her, love her in real time, I'm very grateful for yoga practice because I get a little bit of relief there. So I know if I'm getting relief from my critic, then so are some of my other people too. I'd love to leave you with one of my favorite quotes. It's from Rumi. And man, Rumi, holy smokes, Rumi. Don't get me going on Rumi. But Rumi has to say, I've gotten rid of that ignorant fist that was pinching and twisting my secret self. The universe and the stars come through me now. I so hope that you found some resonance, some head nodding in listening to this podcast. Until next time, take really good care of yourself. Thanks for tuning in.